Hello, this short video was created to introduce key Columbus Food functionality that are enhancements built seamlessly in the Microsoft Dynamics NAV solution. We're going to focus these videos using dairy industry specific examples. This video will touch on Columbus Foods co- and byproduct items, co- and byproduct bills of material structure, and the supply-driven planning tools. Standard Dynamics NAV would allow various items to be recorded as output on a single production order, but as an afterthought. Columbus Food offers a co-byproduct bill of material to define those outputted co- and byproduct items properly. The module then allows for the planning and eventual recording of each intermediate output item, as well as proper costing of the inventory. Looking at the demo data first will help to define the co-byproduct process and eventual flow of supply-driven planning. The co-byproduct bill of material defines the raw material used in production to produce the intermediate co-product and byproduct items. Another Columbus Food BOM, called a packaging BOM, can be used to take the co-product item and package it off to completion. Other videos discuss the Columbus Foods features of aging dairy products as well as lot preferences used during production, so those topics will not be covered here. The actual co-byproduct bill of materials starts with versions. There can be as many process versions as needed. However, only one will have a status of certified and based on the start date will be used in production planning. Let's look at version number 1. The General tab gives us basic information about that particular version, as well as the status, in this case certified. The information on the Lines tabs define the item and quantities to be consumed, and an optional yield percentage for an item scrap factor. The line may also indicate instructional information if needed. Equipment codes can be assigned to identify the equipment used in a runtime. Costing codes can be assigned to identify the set cost, labor as an example, or overhead as another example. The Output tab lists the intermediate items and identifies each as a co- or byproduct of production. For use in planning, the quantities define the expected output from the inputted quantities of materials previously identified on the Lines tab. These fact boxes display key information about the input-output quantities and a cost breakdown by component. Another fact box compares the current version's cost components to the certified active version. Production planning can be driven by either demand or supply requirements. Demand is the more common of the two methods, as most production activities are performed to meet existing needs. Sometimes, a supply-driven planning process can be the preferred method. This is particularly true in environments like dairy, in which raw materials enter the inventory regardless of the existing demand conditions. In this type of scenario, high or low demand won't change the amount of milk contracted to be received. With Columbus Food's supply-driven planning tool, the production planner has a concise view to that steady stream of key raw material items entering the inventory, and a tool that easily assists in planning how those items will be processed. The header is used first to define a location, and then to define timeframes for both supply and demand information fields within those panels. Based on those values entered in the header, the first panel shows the available quantity of specific raw material items. Each of the remaining panels will show information based on the previous panel's selection or input. To demonstrate the Columbus Food supply-driven planning tool, we start by reviewing the anticipated quantity available of a supply item, 36,800 pounds of raw material milk. Next, the processing option panel shows there are two options to process this raw material, cheese or yogurt. We decide we will run 7,000 pounds through the cheese process. We can see the results as the co- and byproduct of that process, cheese and whey, within the Output option panel. The Output Options panel displays informational data only, driven from both the quantities being processed and possibly the quantities being packaged. As an option, we can use the Packaging Options panel to schedule the production of the finished good items. We do this by populating the Quantity to Package field. This is optional, as some dairy items are not ready to be packaged right away. Perhaps an extending aging is required. The user can continue to populate the worksheet, moving from panel to panel and entering quantities to process. When ready, the user can select Create Orders to have the system generate each of the production orders needed. Outstanding production orders will impact the planning supply quantity. The initial 3,600 pounds has been reduced by the 7,000 we plan to use in production. As a note, these buttons will display process orders and packaging orders already created for easy navigation to find the information. Thanks so much for taking time to view this video. We anticipate you may have more questions and look forward to hearing from you.